Salutation verses of Koreana Gachuna Smala Madhyama Kankareka. Abhisamaya Alamkara's salutation verse. So let us recite this verse of taking refuge in bodhicitta to correct our motivation. To the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I'm enlightened. May my practice of generosity and so forth become the cause for me to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So today is the death anniversary of Tsongkhapa. So Gaden Ngamchu is the death anniversary of Tsongkhapa. And in the 180s of Tushita heaven, it says during this degenerate time, you have extensively studied the Buddha Dharma and also integrated these teachings within yourself in practice. And so with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, there is the scriptural teaching which is preserved through teaching and engaging in the discourse of teaching and listening to the teachings, and then with regard to the teaching, the doctrine of realization, it is preserved through practice. So on this occasion of Gaden Ngamchu, the death anniversary of Tsongkhapa, we need to also remind ourselves while wearing while wearing this yellow hat, we are commemorating Tsongkhapa's death anniversary on this day, and also commemorating Tsongkhapa himself and the teaching of Tsongkhapa. So what we should do by reminding ourselves of these is that we should study the teaching and also engage in the practice of it. And so during those so many years, for me, due to the kindness of my teachers, and particularly Gyabje Yongzhen Ling Rinpoche, with their help, I memorized the texts of Abhisamaya Alamkara and Madhyamakavatara and received their transmissions. And even today, I recite these two texts from memory. And then with regard to Madhyamakavatara in its Bhashaya, the auto-commentary, I read them every day, whenever I have time. And so, what we praise Tsongkhapa with, by saying, you in this degenerate age have studied extensively and also practiced, strove in the practice of the Dharma, and we should put into practice ourselves these praises that we make to Tsongkhapa. And so studying extensively and doing practice, we should keep these in mind, and we should work hard to pursue the teaching in study and practice. And so in the Gelug monasteries, there's a very good tradition of studying the teachings of the Buddha, and whatever we have studied, we should whatever we have studied, we should practice them. And so on this day, Je Rinpoche himself is being commemorated. The way we do this is, in practical terms, is by studying well the teaching of the Buddha, and whatever we have studied, to incorporate them in our own mind, so that we make transformation within ourselves, and that makes sense of doing extensive study and integrating teaching within ourselves in practice. And so, what we praise Tsongkhapa with, we should, if we could also follow suit, follow accordingly, studying and practicing the Dharma, then we are making sense of this praise. So sometimes it looks like the teaching of the Buddha is on the hat that we wear. For Gelugpas, the yellow hat, and Nyingma and Kaju have their own different hats with different colors and patterns. The teaching, of course, comprises of scripture and experience, and they are not on the hat. And therefore, it is very important for us to practice the Dharma. So just to start the teaching, I'm going to read Tsongkhapa's experience of the Song of Spiritual Experience.
Marty, on Diri. Marve. Oh, Silum Chamber to be Yassune. There is our Chinchil Lama, Jisu Chamber, the Chisholandi. Beba Chum, Lapsin Soda, but Galachis.
So His Holiness is reading the Destiny Fulfilled.
So the
eye of the world to see higher realms and the freedom of liberation, a resting place for those tired from wandering on the paths of cyclic existence. The root of happiness and excellence is my kind spiritual masters, and the noble Lord wisdom treasure. Manjushri, I bow at your feet. And then how I sought extensive learning. If the darkness of the confusion about which points to adopt or reject is not dispelled by the depth of lamp of perfect learning, and the path remains unknown, what needs is there to speak of entering the supreme city of liberation? Therefore, not content with a partial or superficial understanding of the treatises by the invincible Lord of Dharma, Maitreya, and by the great masters widely renowned as the six ornaments and the two supreme ones, I studied them in all in great detail, thinking this over, how well my destiny was fulfilled. Thank you very much, O noble Lord, wisdom treasure. Especially for an ordinary person, the only way to establish the reality of things is through the treatises on valid reasoning. So I studied their difficult points again and again with much effort, thinking this over, how well my destiny was fulfilled. Thank you very much, O noble treasure, wisdom treasure. However, much I poured over the treatises of Sutra and Tantra and so forth. So with regard to the Madhyamaka Karika, the fundamental wisdom verses of the middle way, I read these texts, some of the verses from these texts every day. So however much when practicing and expounding their profound meaning, I found my own view not much advanced, beyond that of someone who had learned nothing and knew nothing at all. So I thoroughly studied all the essential points and deduced the correct view through the subtle dialectical reasoning that differentiates the profound, particularly found in the treatises of Nagarjuna, and my doubts were completely resolved, thinking this over and so forth. There are two vehicles to travel to complete enlightenment, the profound Vajra vehicle and the vehicle of perfection. Of the two, the secret Mantrayana far superior to the perfection vehicle, something as well known to all as the sun and the moon. While accepting these words to be true, there are some who do not speak, who do not ask, what is the profound vehicle? And yet presume to be scholars. If people like that are supposed to be intelligent, who are the dim-witted? Alas, it is astonishing that anyone would neglect an unexcelled path such as this, so hard to find. Therefore, I entered the supreme vehicle of the victors, the Vajra vehicle, and so forth. And then within the second class of performance Tantra, I studied the main Tantra, the manifest enlightenment of Vajrayana, and thoroughly ascertained every aspect pertaining to performance Tantra. Thinking this over, how well my destiny was fulfilled. Thank you so very much, O noble Lord, wisdom treasure. Within the third class, the Yoga Tantra, I studied the main Tantra, the glorious compendium of reality, the explanatory Tantra, Vajra Peak, and so on, and enjoyed the feast of Yoga Tantra, thinking this over and so forth. As for the fourth class, the highest Yoga Tantra, I studied the root tantras, the explanatory tantras, and others that are as renowned among the Indian sages as the sun and the moon. Of the father tantra, Samacha, and of the yogini mother tantras, Vajrat and Chakra Samvara, I also studied the stainless light, a pioneering commentary that illuminates the Kala Chakra Tantra, a system of explanation different from other sutras and tantras. Thinking this over, how well my destiny was fulfilled. Thinking this over, O noble Lord. Thank you very much, O noble Lord, wisdom treasure. So this concludes the first section, how initially I sought out extensive learning and how all the scriptures dawned as the instructions. Then, with a firm, intense, and enduring faith in Manjughosha, who best dispels the darkness from the mind of the disciples, I prayed for the scriptures to dawn on me as spiritual advice and worked to accumulate all the requisite conditions. Thinking this over, how well my destiny was fulfilled. Thank you very much, O noble Lord, wisdom treasure. Striving thus, I developed a unique conviction about the stages of the path to enlightenment, the tradition passed down from Nagarjuna Sangha, and hence the perfection of wisdom sutra as the supreme scriptures on the profound dawned upon me as spiritual advice, thinking this over and so forth. In this northern land, there are many who declare, whether they have studied the text of logic or not, that there is no graduated practice leading to enlightenment in the compendium of valid cognitions and the 7 treatises of Brahmana, but they also take as authoritative that Manjushri endorsed the composition of the Compendium of Valid Cognition when he explicitly said to Dignaka, write this text. In the future it will become an eye for all wandering beings. Recognizing these two views to be completely contradictory, I specifically examined the system of logic. The meaning of the homage in the Compendium of Valid Cognition is revealed by the Pramana Siddhiva chapter, establishing through the forward and reverse reasoning that the Buddha is an authoritative guide for those seeking liberation. Through that, I found a deep conviction that his teaching alone is the entryway for those in pursuit of complete freedom, and I found special joy in the fact that essential aspects of the path relating to both the foundational and universal vehicles are made accessible by the method of logical reasoning, thinking this over and so forth. Then, through the hard and methodical work of combining the two texts, levels of Bodhisattva and ornament of sutras, all the treatises of the invincible Lord of Dharma, Maitreya, and his followers dawned on me as instructions for my practice, thinking this over and so forth, in particular by relying on the compendium of training that provides certainty about all the essential aspects of the path. By arranging the topics of the profound and the extensive scriptures in a specific order, I could clearly see the stages to be followed in practicing the content of the many excellent treatises of Nagarjuna, such as the compendium of sutras, thinking this over and so forth. Then, by relying on Buddha Guha's lucidly explained quintessential advice on the latter concentration and the manifest enlightenment of Vairocana, all the essential aspects of the path dawned as instruction, thinking this over and so forth. Seeing how the essentials of the path in the compendium of reality are contained in the 3 samadhis was not so difficult, but knowing how hard it is to realize, how to meditate on the profound, I relied on the correct explanation by the great Pandit, the Buddha Guha, which integrates root, explanatory, and combined yoga tantras and elucidates the stages by which to familiarize oneself with the profound practices of the 3 lower classes of tantra, and it dispels the darkness of confusion in my mind, thinking this over, and thank you. So for ultimate among the well-spoken teachings of the sage Buddha is the glorious highest yoga tantra, of which the greatest and most profound is the king of tantras, the glorious Guhe Samaja. On this, the supreme philosopher Nagarjuna has said that the essentials of the path are concealed in the root tantra by the way of 6 limits and 4 modes. So they must be understood by following the explanatory tantras. And through the oral instructions of a master. Viewing this as essential, I acquainted my mind at length with the different texts of Nagarjuna's tradition of Guhe Samaja, the ultimate pith instructions contained in the Concise Sadhana, the lamp of concise practice, the graduated presentation, and so forth. Relying on the commentary that illuminates the root tantra like a lamp, I compared these with the 5 explanatory tantras and studied them intensely. Through this effort, I came to understand the 2 stages of Guhe Samaja in general and the essential aspects of the completion stage in particular. Thinking this over, and thank you, and so forth. By dint of this, the essential points of the many tantras such as Samvara, Hivajra, Kalachakra dawned on me as instructions. I have already explained this elsewhere. Here, I just briefly mention it for the discerning, thinking this over and so forth. And this concludes this second section, showing how in the middle the old scriptures dawned on me as instructions. And then the third part, how I practice day and night. And that is also completed. And then Gyaltsen Rinpoche gave the teaching of the three principal aspects of the path to Tsako Wumpo Ngawan Thakpa. And it is a very comprehensive text. And Rinpoche says that please follow the instructions that I have given to you to Tsako Wumpo Ngawan Thakpa and practice them. And then when I become enlightened, and then follow in the suit and in the footsteps of my own practice. And then when I become enlightened, I will share the first, give this first share of my teaching, of the nectar of the teaching to you. So the three principal aspects of the path, homage to the most venerable teachers. So I shall explain here to the best of my ability and so forth. And so it goes through the reason why we should practice the three principles, the renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view. So without pure renunciation, there is no means to pacify the yearning for the joys and fruits of samsaric ocean, and as craving for existence chains us thoroughly at first search for the true renunciation. By cultivating in mind that this human life is so hard to find, yet has no time to spare, preoccupations with this life will cease. By contemplating repeatedly the truth of karma and samsaric suffering, preoccupations with the next life will come to cease. As you habituate in this way, and when not even an instant of admiration arises for the prosperities of cyclic existence, and when the thought of aspiring for liberation arises day and night, at this point, true renunciation has arisen. Such a renunciation, too, if it is not sustained by pure awakening mind, it will not become a cause of the perfect bliss of unexalted enlightenment. Therefore, O intelligent ones, to generate an excellent awakening mind, and the way to do that is shown by the next verses. They are being swept away constantly by the four powerful rivers, which gives us some sign of a sense of sadness to see the nature of the condition of suffering of sentient beings. They are bound tightly by the fetters of karma, most difficult to escape. They are trapped inside the iron mesh of self-grasping. They are enveloped from everywhere by the thick mists of ignorance. So what happens to us is that whatever appears to our mind seems to have some kind of an objective, independent existence. But we need to check whether things exist that way or not. And then through that kind of critical analysis, we should try to search for emptiness. So without really understanding how things appear and not being able to reject that way of existence of things, we are not able to make our practice that powerful and effective. So they take rebirth. They take birth within cyclic existence that has no end, where they're endlessly tormented by the three sufferings, and so forth. So this gives a very strong sense of thinking about the suffering nature of sentient beings. And then regarding these verses from Madhyamaka Avatara, chapter 6, the last three verses of chapter 6, 224, 225, and 226. So 224 begins by saying, thus illuminated by the rays of wisdom's light, the Bodhisattva sees as clearly as a gooseberry on his open palm that the three realms in their entirety are unborn from their very start, and through the force of conventional truth, and through to the end of 226, to the excellent far show the ocean equalities of the conquerors. So I reflect on these verses daily. And the third verse is, and like the king of swans, soaring ahead of other accomplished swans, with white wings of conventional ultimate truth spread wide. Of course, we talk about passing through the five-tiered path, beginning with the path of accumulation and going on to path of preparation or application, and then the path of seeing, meditation, and then normal learning. When you think along these lines from the Dhammapada and understand their meaning well, you will be able to see how these are practical, that can happen in reality, that we can tread the path to enlightenment. So by reflecting on all the mothers who suffer such condition, please generate the supreme awakening mind. And then the next verse says, so strive in the means of realizing dependent origin. And here Tsongkhapa doesn't say strive in the means of realizing emptiness or selflessness. And when we talk about emptiness, we do say that we are not able to find things when we critically search for them, their identity as such. And so, with the reasoning of dependent origination, what you're able to do is to dispel both the extremes of nihilism and eternalism at the same time. So strive in the means of realizing dependent origination. Verse number 9. This is a very important point. And then verse number 10, when with respect to all phenomena, samsara and nirvana, you see that cause and effects never deceive their laws. And when you have dismantled the focus of objectification, at that point you have entered the path that pleases the Buddhas. So what happens to us is the things appear as if they can be pinpointed as being this and that. And therefore, in Madhyamaka Avatara, verse number 34 says, and so, verse number 34. So verse number 34, 35, and 36, and so forth, these which show the logical absurdities. So this connects to when respect to all phenomena. And when you dismantle the focus of objectification, at that point you have entered the path that pleases the Buddhas. So long as two understandings of appearance, which is undeceiving dependent origination, and emptiness, devoid of all the thesis, remain separate, so long you have not realized the intent of the sage. However, at the same point, when, without alternation, but at once, the instant you see the dependent origination is undeceiving. If the entire object of grasping at certitude is dismantled, and you are able to think that things are merely designated, So what happens to us is that things appear as if they have some kind of objective independent existence, and when you are able to confirm that things are merely designated, that conception or that clinging conception is dismantled. At that point, your analysis of the view has culminated. Furthermore, when appearance dispels the extreme of existence, and when emptiness dispels the extreme of non-existence, and if you understand how emptiness arises, cause and effect, you will never be captivated by views grasping at extremes. Thus, when you have understood as they are the essentials of the three principal aspects of the path, O son, seek solitude, and by strengthening your perseverance, the power of your perseverance, swiftly accomplish your ultimate aspiration. This advice was given by the monk Losang Thakpa Bel to Ngawang Thakpa, a leading person of Tsako region.
Lamrim Nyonggu, Lamrim Lamrim Chamu.
So next we are going to go through the concise stages of the path to enlightenment. The extensive Lamrim by Tsongkhapa is the Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise of the stages of middle path to enlightenment, and then there is the middle-length stages of the path to enlightenment, which is slightly shorter, and then this one is shortest than that. So your body is created from billions of a billion perfect factors of goodness. Your speech satisfies the yearning of countless sentient beings. Your mind perceives all objects of knowledge exactly as they are. I bow my head to you, O chief of the Shakya clan. And then next, verse number 2, 3, from number 4. Paying homage to Divankara. And then number 5, you are the eye to see all the myriad collections of scriptures. To the fortunate ones traveling to freedom, you illuminate the excellent path. You do this through skillful deeds, stirred forth by compassion. I pay respectful homage to you, O my spiritual mentors. You are the crowning jewel among all the learned ones in the world. Your banners of fame flutter vibrantly amongst the sentient beings, O Nagarjuna Sangha. From you flow an excellent steady stream, this instruction on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Since it fulfills all the wishes of beings without exception. It is the king of kings among all essential instructions. Since it gathers into it thousands of excellent rivers of treatises, it's as well the ocean of most glorious, well-uttered insight. It helps to recognize all teachings to be free of contradictions. It helps the dawning of all scriptures as pit instructions. It helps to find easily the enlightened intention of the conquerors. It helps also to guard against the abyss of grave negative deeds. Therefore, this most excellent instruction that is sought after by numerous fortunate ones like these learned ones of India and Tibet, this instruction of the stages of the path of persons of three capacities. What an intelligent person is there whose mind is not captured by this. This concise instruction distilling the essence of all scriptures, even through reciting it or listening to it only once, the benefits of teaching the Dharma, listening to it and so on. Since such waves of merit are bound to be gathered, contemplate its meaning. Then the root of creating the auspicious conditions for all the excellences of this and future lives is to rely properly on and with effort, both in thought and action, upon the sublime spiritual mentor who reveals the path. Seeing this, we should never forsake him, even at the cost of our life, and please him with the offering of the implementing his words. I, a yogi, have practiced this in this manner. You who aspire to liberation, too, should do like this. So we use these last two lines in our prayer by saying, I, an aspirant of liberation. No, you, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. I, who aspire to liberation too, shall do likewise. So this life of leisure is even more precious than a wish-granting jewel. That I have found such an existence is only this once, and so on. So we are going through the 6 perfections: perfection of generosity, morality, patience, effort. Verse number 29 says, if the armor of unflinching perseverance is worn, so knowledge of scripture and realization increases like waxing moon. So when you put effort in the practice of the Dharma, you should be steady in it, not just working so hard for a short while and then getting tired and resting and becoming fatigued. That should not happen. So all the conducts become fused with good purpose, and whatever initiative we may begin succeeds as hoped for. Knowing this, bodhisattvas apply great waves of effort. And then concentration is like the king that reigns over the mind. When left, it is unwavering, as the king of mountains. When set forth, it engages with all objects of virtue. And then next verse, verse number 33, wisdom is the eye that sees the profound suchness. It's a path eradicating cyclic existence from its very root. It's a treasury of higher qualities that is praised in all scriptures. It's known as the supreme lamp, dispelling the darkness of delusion. Knowing this, the learned ones who aspire to liberation, so not only with faith, but with our wisdom and intelligence, we should be able to dispel the darkness of ignorance within ourselves, which is to say, that of the grasping at true existence, especially with regard to emptiness, the view of emptiness. It has to be developed through reason and logic. And so when you develop this, when we do meditation on emptiness, it would be also helpful to have single-pointed concentration, with which your meditation, single-pointed concentration, will be better. So these two, focusing meditation and analytical meditation, must be done hand in hand, side by side. And so you may focus when you have become gain some certainty in the points of practice. You should focus your mind on it single-pointedly, and then after a while, when you feel a little bit stirred from that, you should come out of it and then do analytical meditation. And so in this way, you should strengthen the single-pointed concentration, and the analytical meditations should enforce one another. What need is there? The verse number 38. What need is there to say that through one-pointed cultivation, absorption is realized. Through discriminative awareness, probing with precision as well, one can abide unwavering and utterly stable upon the true mode of being. Wondrous are those who see this and strive for the union of abiding and insight. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire to liberation should do likewise. The space-like emptiness of meditative poise and the illusion-like emptiness of subsequent realization, praised are those who cultivate them and bind together the method and wisdom, and they travel beyond bodhisattva's deeds. It's the way of fortunate ones to realize this and not to be content with partial paths. I, O yogi, have practiced this in this manner. You who aspire to liberation should do likewise. So this text, the brief presentation of the practices of stages of the path of enlightenment, written in the format of a memorandum, was composed by the well-read monk, the renunciant Losang Tragpa at the great mountain retreat of Gaden Tri-thog Khang. And so, on this occasion of the death anniversary of Tsongkhapa, we are commemorating him. It won't be a commemoration of Tsongkhapa just by wearing the yellow hat, but as I already said before, by through extensive learning and accordingly practicing the Dharma as best as we could on a daily basis. Listening to the teachings and also reflecting on it again, the meaning of what we have studied again and again, over and over again, and then gaining some experience so that we can make transformation within our mind. So this is possible. It is really possible to make transformation within ourselves. So by reflecting on the stages of the path to enlightenment and then saying, oh, how wonderful it is, will not really help you to make transformation. But you should study the Lamrim and then integrate the teaching on within yourself so that you can make transformation within yourself. So this must be done. I remind you of these, that you should study and listening to the teachings and then reflect and apply the teaching within yourself. So with regard to the extensive teachings, conduct lineage, which pertains to thinking about that of bodhicitta, and then the profound view lineage, and then the great wave of practice lineage. So, which focuses on the practice of bodhicitta based on the equaling and exchanging self and others. And so we are all followers of Tsongkhapa. So how I have been able to make some transformation within myself through my practice of whatever I have studied. So we all have access to the same text that I have also studied. And therefore, please do your best, work hard in commemorating this day of the death anniversary of Tsongkhapa. The practical way to do that is by studying the texts, the treatises, and also integrating these teachings within yourself. Of course, the change and transformation will not happen overnight, but you should persevere in your practice. And at some point, you will you'll see the transformation within yourself. So, do we have questions? Mandala offering. White Snow Mountain in the east by Gaden Tri-thog, the first Dalai Lama.
La da da da,
Antemba Zimbara Challenge, Shintense Travel Tama, Sudila Jowatin, Shelava Leveno, Yusense Zinlaya, Amtembo Nebe, Yedama Yante, Lamgosa Yuki, Session, Jube, Jugone, Jube, Malas, Anyamon, the Tamiche, Shajeba, Samji, Desha, Nebala, Munugueton, Dendai, Kube, Shinian, Chili, Gula, Gadu. Gweze yola tana jun tana nanyu be nyomon mi joe jinjo jobo le jozo no mache lozo wo ne be doje je lamda boy joe tamde la de ne do wa na chani je janjo sin yin de do be do ye be la me janjo nyo do be do je da ni je re dom ja we jo ne la me la tim de wo me zen boy je tong wa de la ja de ni me do wa yin je de ja je dang boy de be去年的真别苏的，多这位长久当多，接浪马去接客店，才得当前面那个，二三八一线路八道，接见那八一月我， This is the final Lamrim prayer.
두시체 안데 샤거르메 찍디
So with regard to the prayer by the first Dalai Lama, after leaving Gaden and when he was living in Zhang region, it says at the peak of the White Snow Mountain, the white clouds seemed to reach the sky. As I see this, I recall my lamas. By thinking of their kindness over and over again, faith grows in me. So, though it has been many generations since Tsongkhapa and his disciples came into this world, but we still have access to their writings. So, what Gaden Tri-thog expresses his sadness, recalling his master. And we have access to the writings of those masters, Tsongkhapa and so forth, and practice the three trainings of morality, concentration and wisdom. And since we have access to these teachings, we need to know how to go about with the study and practice of these teachings. So it says, to the east of the white floating clouds in the dark garden, the completely victorious abbots, while the compassionate ones whose names are difficult to utter, the father Tsongkhapa, Losang Thakpa, and his spiritual sons, and so forth. So the writings of Tsongkhapa are accessible. We have access to them, and also there is the transmission of these teachings extent. And so the great insight section of Lamrim Chemo, and also with regard to Bodhicitta, I do, of course, reflect on them. So, of course, what we need to do is acquaint our minds to these practices, because the mind, the nature of mind is such that it follows what you acquaint your mind with. And so, from my own experience, I can tell that transformations can happen if you persevere and acquaint your mind with the teaching over and over again. It just doesn't happen immediately. And so I would like to urge you, my Dharma friends, to follow suit. And so whatever the Rinpoche has taught, we need to practice them. Thank you.